To kick off the NASCAR ghost stories, I'm going to start with the story that anybody would start with. The American Le Mans Series at Sonoma in 2004. Okay, so it's not exactly NASCAR, but it involves a very high-profile NASCAR driver, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale teamed up with Boris Said to drive a Corvette C5R for Corvette Racing. Jr. practiced and qualified the car, but during the pre-race warm-up, this happened.
Sonoma, second yellow car in line disappearing behind the wall. Earnhardt apparently lost traction and spun hard into the concrete with the back of the car first. As it came to a stop on track, it burst into flames.
Dale had a hard wreck and sat motionless in the car for a few seconds before the car went ablaze. The interesting thing is whenever he was getting out of the car, Jr. stated that he felt somebody put their hands under his armpit and pull him out. The thing is, nobody pulled him out at all. Look at this video, you can clearly see what he's talking about. He is in the process of getting out pretty slowly, and all of a sudden, it looks like someone grabs him and throws him to the ground. His arms are out, making it look like he was not in control when he was getting out of the car. It's also hard to tell if he opened the door himself, but the door flies open as well. Some say that he unknowingly may have opened it, or the fire melted the door and it collapsed when he put his weight on it. Dale went onto his podcast and stated that he believes it was some sort of spirit or paranormal activity. He was so convinced that somebody pulled him out that as soon as he got to the hospital, he asked, "Who pulled me out of the car? I have to thank them." He went on to get a little more animated, saying, "Because it was a hand. It was physical hands grabbing me. I felt it. And there was nobody there." Many people thought this was the ghost of Dale Earnhardt Sr. who actually saved Jr. According to them, he was going to do whatever it took to ensure that his son did not suffer the same fate as he did. Some people think that Jr. may not have remembered the events, like he was concussed or something, and that he had some sort of weird vision or his brain connected some dots for him. However, he remembers every detail of the event, throwing away this conclusion. Was it a paranormal event? I think it may have been. It's quite chilling seeing the events after the wreck, after hearing the events from his perspective. So before I get into these next stories, I'm going to briefly explain the Talladega Curse. This is for context, and I know I've talked about it in other videos, but it'll just take a minute. There are three legends that all come to the conclusion that Talladega is a cursed racetrack. The first legend is that Talladega is buried over a Native American burial ground. Another is that the valley that the track is in, a Native American tribe had a horse racing track. A chief was thrown off his horse and died and haunts the grounds to this day. The third and last legend is that when Andrew Jackson seized the land from the local Creek tribe, a shaman cursed the land. The next couple stories take place at Talladega, and people use this as a foundation for why these stories happened. The 1973 Talladega 500 was just the 5th year of Talladega running races, and the 9th ever race there. It was quite apparent that a tragic wreck at the track was a matter of when, not if. Back in 1969 for the first running of the race, the drivers went on strike because of the high speeds and lack of safety. 13 laps into the 1973 Talladega 500, the inevitable occurred, and the young Larry Smith, the 1972 Rookie of the Year, lost his life. According to some reports, this was a soft hit, which escalates the rumors of the Talladega Curse. However, the damage looks quite significant on the car, and Larry was traveling at well over 180 miles per hour, so I don't think the description of soft hit is appropriate. It also came out later that he had an abnormally soft skull and had fractured it before, so this most likely led to his death. Anyways, the meat of this ghost story comes later in the race. Mid-race, Hall of Famer Bobby Isaac told team owner Bud Moore to get a relief driver ready. He pulled into the pits, climbed out of the car, and immediately walked away. Why was this? Well, Bobby was hearing voices. Specifically, a voice told him to get out of the car immediately. So that's exactly what he did. In an interview, his wife stated that she doesn't know if it was an actual verbal voice or just intuition of sorts. But whatever it was, it scared him enough to get out of the car. Some people say this was the voice of Larry Smith, the young man who lost his life just hours earlier. Others believe it could have been a guardian angel of sorts, a good apple among the other ghosts that roamed the land for centuries. After starting 19 of the first 20 races in the 1973 season, Isaac didn't make another start after this race. He came back for a small sample of races over the next few seasons, and even raced again at Talladega just a year after this event, and finished a respectable 8th place. 4 years later, in late August of 1977, Bobby had a heart attack during a late model race at Hickory. He pulled down the pit lane with about 40 laps to go and collapsed getting out of his car. He would later be pronounced dead at a hospital. So another layer to the story comes from Bobby himself. Listen to this quote by David Pearson. Quote, Bobby had come around asking Dr. Jerry Punch questions like, how does it feel if you're fixing to have a heart attack? So he knew there was something wrong with him. This leads some people to speculate he knew something was going to happen to him and that he knew he was going to die of a heart attack. Like maybe perhaps some voice told him and he just didn't know when the day would come. Now this next story also builds off the Talladega Curse thing, and it would probably just be an unsolved crime if it happened at any other track. Right before the 1974 Talladega 500, the year after Bobby Isaac heard the voices, about half of the field noticed some sort of sabotage towards their vehicles. Oil lines and brake lines were cut, tires were slashed, sand filled the gas tanks of the cars. It was attempted murder. Well, somebody just broke into the track at night and started vandalizing vehicles, right? Maybe not. The gates were locked, so if somebody sabotaged the cars, they had to hide in the garage area all day until nighttime. Further, at least 2 and up to 4 security guards were patrolling the area. Somehow, this suspected criminal had to bring tools to destroy the cars, bring sand and soda into the garage area, not be seen by any of the 4 guards, and be as quiet as a mouse. Nobody could have had any suspicion of them. Now, this is either some criminal mastermind, or maybe there's another solution. No person was ever caught or charged with a crime, leaving it a total mystery. I thought this was kind of baseless, but the more I read into it, the more it seemed like an impossible task to pull off. J.D. Mcduffie was a well-respected NASCAR veteran, logging over 650 NASCAR Winston Cup starts over the course of 27 years. J.D. was an owner-driver for almost every single one of his starts. In the late 80s and 90s, J.D. was only making a handful of starts per season, and his cars were ultimately not up to speed. With that said, NASCAR was clearly a passion for him, and I 1,000,000% respect that. Unfortunately, his legacy came to an end in 1991 at the Glen. He was involved in a crash entering the carousel in which he suffered a mechanical failure. He collided with Jimmy Means and the two went hard into the tire barrier. Jimmy was the first to check on Mcduffie, but it was already too late. Changes were made to the track, including the infamous bus stop to slow cars down before entering the turn that JD lost his life at. It wasn't until 1998, in a test session, when Bobby Hillin Jr. saw something out of the ordinary. After going through the bus stop, Bobby swears he saw the ghost of JD Mcduffie at the exact spot his fatal hit occurred. He told his team about the incident, but nobody believed him. Another strange connection here is that Bobby actually raced for Jimmy Means, the only other driver that was involved in JD's tragic wreck. Bobby raced for Jimmy Means for a brief stint of 2 races in 1991, the same year that JD lost his life. Maybe I'm just reading into it a little bit too much there, but it does make for an interesting story. Anyways guys, that's it for this video. I just wanted to share my favorite few ghost stories in NASCAR. If there are any that were not included in this video, make sure you guys let me know in the comments below, and I might make a part 2. Anyways, hope you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.